some personal stories, and we are ready to explore.
Yeah.
Today, it's all about white ink tattoos.
Cool.
These things, they're getting so popular. And, I can see why there's just something kind of mysterious about them. Like, they're subtle, but they make a statement.
Absolutely. It's a whole different approach to body art. It's not about being loud, it's about that minimalist vibe, understated. It really connects with people looking for something different.
Yeah, for sure. So let's break it down. What actually makes these white ink tattoos different? Like visually, what sets them apart from, say, a traditional tattoo?
Think of it this way. Traditional tattoos, they're like bold pronouncements.
Okay, yeah.
White ink. They're more like delicate etchings. Almost like they're, woven into your skin, not just sitting on top.
Interesting.
Totally different look.
It's amazing how something so subtle can be, so striking.
Right.
Now, one thing that jumped out from the research, white ink, it looks totally different depending on your skin tone.
Oh, yeah. Skin pigmentation is huge here. Like on lighter skin tones, white ink tattoos can be super subtle.
Really?
Yeah, almost disappearing. And over time, they might fade even more or take on a slightly warmer tone, almost like a hidden message.
I like that. A secret tattoo.
Right.
So what about people with darker skin tones? What happens with white ink then?
So on darker skin, the white ink, at first it can be more noticeable, but as it heals, it tends to fade more, and it might even change how it looks. Sometimes it'll look almost like a scar.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, kind of like a raised design, almost like a keloid scar. Can be a really cool effect, but definitely something to, think about.
So you're kind of taking a chance, right? It can start bold and end up totally different.
Exactly. And if you have medium skin tone,
yeah,
even more unpredictable. Depends on your undertones, the ink quality. It's a whole spectrum. Some people fade like lighter skin, others, they see more changes. It's all part of the unique journey of a white ink tattoo.
It sounds like working with white ink is a whole different challenge for tattoo artists.
Yeah.
Compared to, the usual inks, what are some of the hurdles they face?
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some unique challenges. First off, the white ink itself, it's thicker, more opaque than other inks.
Oh.
It's like, painting with cream instead of watercolor. You need a real steady hand, to make it even and avoid those blotches or, God forbid, the ink spreading under the skin.
Oof. Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare. For both of you.
Total nightmare. And to make it visible, artists often have to layer the white ink.
Right.
Think of techniques like whip shading, where you gradually build up the ink.
Right.
But too many layers. Tattoo looks raised. Too few. Fades unevenly.
So it's a real balancing act.
Exactly. That's why finding a tattoo artist who really knows white ink, that's key. They got to understand this ink, how it'll work with your skin.
Right. So I'm guessing aftercare is super important too. Yeah. What do people with these tattoos need to be extra careful about?
You hit the nail on the head. Sun, it's the enemy. White ink tattoos, they fade so fast in the sun. Sunscreen every day, no excuses. Like you're protecting a precious piece of art. And of course, all the usual tattoo care stuff. Keep it clean, moisturized. All that's key for healing.
Now, before we move on, let's clear up some misconceptions. What are some things people just get wrong about white ink tattoos?
Oh, there are a few big ones. First one, people think they stay bright white forever.
Right.
Nope. Fades, changes color over time. It's part of what makes them so unique.
Okay, so managing expectations is key here. It's about that subtle beauty.
Exactly. And another one, they think they're invisible in regular light. Nah, you can see them, especially when they're fresh. More like whispers than shouts.
Gotcha. So what's the third one?
People think they look the same on everyone. As we talked about, skin tone matters a lot. It's a very personal experience.
All right, so bottom line, pros and cons. What are we looking at for white ink tattoos?
Pros. You get that unique, understated look. Perfect if you want something discreet, personal. Plus, white ink can create a raised effect, almost like scarification. Some people love that.
That does sound kind of cool.
It is. But downsides, yeah, they do tend to fade, change color, and they might not always look how you expect, especially as they age. Finding a skilled artist, that's crucial. Can be tough, honestly.
So who do you think is the perfect candidate for a white ink tattoo?
Well, minimalists, people getting their first tattoo, they often go for white ink. Less intimidating, especially for that first tattoo.
That makes sense. What about people who already have tattoos? Can you incorporate white ink into those designs?
Oh, yeah, totally. Actually, putting white ink over black tattoos, that's getting really popular.
Really?
Yeah, it creates this amazing contrast. Like, the black ink becomes a shadow, highlighting the white, adds so much depth.
That sounds pretty artistic. But I'm guessing it depends on how old the black tattoo is, right?
You got it. Fresh tattoos, harder to work with. Black ink's too strong. It's like trying to paint on a wet canvas. Older tattoos, they've faded, settled, much better canvas for white ink.
Okay, so longevity. How long can you expect a white ink tattoo to last, realistically, before it starts to fade?
That's the million-dollar question. Honestly, like any tattoo, it comes down to taking care of your skin. Sun protection is huge. We've talked about that. And moisturizer, that's your friend. Keeps the ink from drying out. It's a commitment. Got to keep your artwork in good shape.
And even with the best care, some fading is just, well, unavoidable.
Part of the journey, right. Might need touch-ups over time to brighten it up. But with good care, white ink tattoo can look great for years. It's about embracing how it changes, you know?
All right, let's talk healing. What can someone expect after getting a white ink tattoo? Is it different from, a regular tattoo?
Healing a white ink tattoo, you've got to be patient. It's subtle. The real beauty comes out gradually. At first, it might look raised or puffy. That's normal. Body's just doing its thing.
So no instant gratification.
Not really. But that's the beauty of it. As your skin heals, the white ink, it really starts to show. Like watching a flower bloom.
I gotta ask, is it true they hurt more? White ink tattoos, more than regular ones.
That's a myth. Pain, it's different for everyone. Pain tolerance, where you get it, the artist's technique, it all plays a part.
So it's not the ink itself, more like how it's done.
Exactly. And talk to your artist. If it hurts, tell them. They can adjust, make it more comfortable.
Okay, good to know. So price-wise, are white ink tattoos usually more expensive?
Well, it depends, right? Size, how complex it is, the artist's experience, that all factors in. White ink tattoos, they often take more passes, need more precision, so yeah, they might cost a bit more. It's an investment.
Right, you're paying for the skill, not just the ink. When we were researching, we saw that white ink tattoos can look reddish while they're healing.
Oh, yeah, totally normal. It's just inflammation, your body healing. Don't worry, it's temporary. Once the scabbing's gone, the white ink will be clear.
That's good to know. We also saw that certain aftercare products can help keep white ink tattoos bright.
For sure. Aftercare is key for any tattoo, but especially for white ink. Got to prevent that fading, discoloration. There are tattoo glides and lotions and balms. They help soothe the skin, keep it moisturized. It's like giving your tattoo some TLC.
So sunscreen's not enough. Gotta have a good routine.
Exactly. Think of it like maintaining a car. You want it to look good and run well.
This has been super interesting learning about white ink tattoos. They're clearly unique, and I can see why people are choosing them. But before we get to listener questions, I think it's worth saying, finding a good artist is the most important thing here.
Couldn't agree more. It takes real skill, to create a good white ink tattoo. Don't be shy. Ask artists about their experience. See their work. It's your body. It's got to be something you love.
Great advice. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. All right, it's question time. We got a ton of great questions from our listeners, and, they're all about white ink tattoos, so let's dive right in.
Sounds good. Ready to tackle those questions and, share some more insights about these amazing tattoos.
Okay, first up, we have Sarah from Seattle. Sarah writes, I have darker skin, and I really like the idea of a white ink tattoo, but I'm kind of worried about fading, or it ending up looking like a scar. Any advice?
Great question, Sarah. And it's a valid concern. Like we talked about earlier, white ink can react differently on darker skin. At first, it might look super bright, but it does tend to fade more over time. And sometimes it can kind of take on a texture like a raised scar, almost like a keloid. Not always a bad thing, but definitely something to, keep in mind.
So what are Sarah's options if she really wants a white ink tattoo? Should she just not get one?
Not necessarily. The most important thing is to talk to a really good tattoo artist. Someone who has experience with white ink on darker skin. They can look at Sarah's skin, talk about her ideas, and give her a realistic idea of what to expect. How long it'll last, how it might look. It's all about being realistic, understanding that white ink, it has its own journey on different skin tones.
Sounds like finding the right artist is key here, someone who can, guide her through the process.
Exactly. And thinking about placement, Sarah might want to get the tattoo somewhere that doesn't get a ton of sun. UV rays, they can really speed up the fading. Actually, that's good advice for anyone with a white ink tattoo, no matter their skin tone.
Speaking of fading, Lisa from LA asked a question about that too. She says, I'm worried about how long white ink lasts. I've heard they fade quicker than black or colored tattoos. Is that true? And what can I do to, prevent it?
Hey, Lisa. So, yeah, it's true. White ink tattoos, they do tend to fade a little faster than other tattoos, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't get one. Just be realistic about it and really commit to taking good care of it. There are definitely things you can do to, keep those white ink tattoos looking fresh for longer.
So what's the secret? How do we keep those tattoos looking their best?
All right, rule number 1, and this is the most important. Sun protection. Sun protection. Sun protection.
Yeah, got it.
UV rays, they are the worst enemy for white ink. So, sunscreen. Every day, no matter what. Like, think of it as armor for your tattoo.
And I'm guessing moisturizing is important too.
You bet. Keeping your skin hydrated, it's crucial for any tattoo, but especially white ink ones. Regular moisturizing, it'll help prevent that ink from drying out, fading too quickly. Think of it like skincare, but for your tattoo.
So it's not just a one-time thing. You got to make it a habit.
Exactly. It's an investment. You want that tattoo to look good. Right.
Right. Okay, next up, David from Denver is wondering about pain. He asks, I'm thinking of getting a white ink tattoo, but I'm kind of scared of how much it'll hurt. Is it true they hurt more than black or colored tattoos?
David, let's bust that myth right now. White ink being more painful. Not true. Pain is like a personal thing. Everyone feels it differently. Your pain tolerance, the spot you get the tattoo, the artist's technique, it all matters.
So it's not the ink that's the problem. It's more about, like, other factors.
That's it. Some folks might feel white ink a bit more intensely because sometimes you need to apply it thicker, to make it really opaque. But it's more about the technique, not the ink itself.
Makes sense. Okay, next question takes us back to covering up tattoos. Maria from Miami wants to know, I have a black tattoo I don't really like anymore. Can I just cover it up with white ink?
Maria, we hear this a lot. And the answer is, well, it depends. You can put white ink over a black tattoo, but it's not a simple cover-up. Think of it more like, transforming it, not erasing it.
So it's not like painting over a black wall with white paint.
Nope. The white ink will mix with that black ink underneath. You'll get this blend of tones, textures, like the black ink is a shadow, making the white stand out more. Cool effect, but it won't be pure white, It'll be black and white together.
So it's more about, like, working with the tattoo you have and creating something new.
That's the idea. And whether it works well or not, it depends on how old the black tattoo is. If it's fresh, that black ink is strong, tough to work with, like building on shaky ground. Older tattoos, they've faded, settled in, much better for white ink.
So definitely talk to an experienced artist to see if it'll work for your tattoo.
Oh, absolutely. They can check it out, tell you what's possible, help you make a good decision.
All right, next question is from John in Jacksonville. He's into that subtle look of white ink, but he also wants to make sure his tattoo is, visible. He asks, how can I get that balance? Subtle, but still noticeable.
Good question, John. It's all about finding that sweet spot. And the key is a skilled artist, someone who knows how to make white ink pop while still keeping it delicate.
So what are some tricks artists use to make white ink tattoos stand out more?
One way is to use negative space. Like you leave some skin bare around the tattoo and the white ink, it really pops against your skin. It's like creating a silhouette with the ink makes it more eye-catching.
That's cool, like using light and shadow.
Exactly. Another way is to go for thicker lines, bolder designs. Thin lines, they can get lost with white ink. Thicker lines, they'll hold up better over time.
And what about, like, shading or texture? Does that help white ink stand out more?
Definitely. Adding details, it creates visual interest, makes the white ink look more, three-dimensional. You could use stippling, for example, where you use tiny dots to create shading. Gives the tattoo a subtle texture.
So it's all about working with the artist to, like, design something that has both subtlety and visibility.
You got it. It's a team effort. And a good artist will help you create a design that you love, one that fits your style.
Okay, one last question before we move on. This one's from someone who's already thinking about finding the right artist. Michelle from Minneapolis asks, how can I find a tattoo artist who specializes in white ink? What should I look for?
Michelle, great question. Finding the right artist is so important, especially for white ink tattoos. It takes specific skills. So here are a few tips to find that perfect artist for your white ink masterpiece.
Lay it on us.
First, do your research. Look at portfolios online. See who in your area is doing white ink tattoos. Pay attention to the details, how they apply the ink, how it's healed, how it looks on different people. Don't be afraid to, message artists, ask about their experience. A good artist will be happy to talk to you.
So it's all about, like, doing your homework and finding an artist who you connect with, whose style you like.
Exactly. Ask friends for recommendations, read reviews online, go check out different studios in person. Remember, a tattoo's an investment, so take your time, find someone you trust.
Great advice. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been uncovering, all the secrets of white ink tattoos. How they look, how they're done, finding the right artist, all that good stuff. But there's another side to these tattoos we haven't really talked about yet. What they mean.
Right. It's not just about how they look. It's about, I don't know, the story behind them.
Exactly. So what makes them so special beyond just the aesthetics?
That's what I love about white ink tattoos. They often have a really deep meaning for the person who gets them. Because they're so subtle, so personal, they can represent something really intimate.
So it's like they have a hidden message. You got to really look closely to see it.
Yeah, exactly. For some people, a white ink tattoo might be about, new beginnings, a fresh start, or a connection to something spiritual. For others, it might be about strength, resilience, or maybe a tough time they went through.
It's like wearing your heart on your sleeve, but only for a select few to see.
Exactly. And because they're not so obvious, they can be a way for people to express themselves without, shouting it to the world. It's quieter, more personal.
That makes sense. So let's talk about the artistic side. What kind of designs are popular with white ink? Is it all about minimalist stuff?
Minimalism is definitely big. Think delicate lines, simple shapes, small symbols with meaning. It's about capturing an idea, a feeling, in a really clean, understated way.
Like whispering instead of yelling, huh?
Exactly. But you also see more complex designs done in white ink, like mandalas, flowers, even portraits. It depends on the artist and, of course, what the person wants.
I bet working with white ink, it's a whole different approach for artists compared to traditional tattoos.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Artists have to think about how the white ink will, blend with the skin's tones and textures. They're working with something that blends in, not something that stands out. So they gotta be creative, find ways to make it interesting.
Almost like they're sculpting with light and shadow.
That's a great way to put it. And they have to think about how the tattoo will age, how it will change. White ink, it tends to soften, blend more as it heals. So the artist, they got a plan for that.
Sounds like finding an artist who really gets white ink. That's super important.
Absolutely. A good artist, they'll help you with the design, where to put it, and they'll make sure it looks amazing both now and, years down the line.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into white ink tattoos, what's the one big takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
White ink tattoos, they're a beautiful way to express yourself. They're for people who like subtlety, who find meaning in the quiet things, people who appreciate how art changes over time. If you're thinking about a white ink tattoo, do your research, find an artist you love, and, enjoy the journey.
Love that. And on that note, we want to leave you with a question. Knowing what you know now about white ink tattoos, could they be right for you? What would your design be? What story would your tattoo tell? Go explore, learn more, and, thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.